Hello. Okay, I think I have all of my camera issues taken care of now. Let's hope. We are doing resist techniques, and I'm going to start out with some matte medium. You can also use clear gesso for this. Make sure it's clear gesso because you want a resist as opposed to just painting over the top of stuff. So you want it completely sealed, and a stencil. Okay, so on my board you might be able to see that I have some lines drawn. For my normal use, I normally use either the large size mixed media paper, a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, or a half a sheet of the mixed media paper. So I have each one of those on here as reference for when I'm applying the paint. So today I'm going to be using just the half size mixed media paper, simply because when working with regular acrylics as opposed to Aqua inks or Golden Open, they dry a lot faster. So it's more difficult to keep things ready to print on the plate wet and ready to print with regular acrylics, particularly in the winter time. Here in New England it's very dry. So you can see that I'm applying this just like I would regular paint, keeping in mind my boundaries, which I forget way too easily. And I'm just applying this randomly. The reason that I'm applying this randomly is because I'm going to do several coats, and I want there to be some distinction in the colors and not have all the circles just be done over and over again in the same pattern. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. All right, so that is going to get set aside to dry, and I'm going to do the other technique on this side of the paper. So again, I'm using matte medium, and this time I have a brush. Gonna wet it a little bit. And liberal application at this point. And you can do any kind of marks for this. Just think of it in terms of mark making. So if you want this to be an all over print that you're going to cut up, then it doesn't really matter what you use for marks. But if it's going to be something that you might want to use just as a piece of art by itself, then you want to think about your composition and repetition and all those other principles. So I'm using similar marks, but I'm not worried too much about composition today. So, and like I said, you want a liberal application. It will soak into the paper some. All right, and then I'm going to set that aside to dry. And while that is drying, we're going to do some other techniques here. So I did want to mention something that that I found out recently. If you're worried about paint in the environment, wiping off your paintbrush before you dip it into water to clean it. When acrylic paint is dry, it is inert. So it doesn't damage the environment, it's not toxic. It just takes up whatever little space it takes up. Wet, however, when you're putting it in the water systems and all those kinds of things, especially if you use cadmiums and those types of things, they are going to stay toxic. So make sure that you wipe off paint and let it dry and all that before you put your paintbrushes in water to clean, so that we have as little active pollutants as possible going down the drain. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use this painter's tape, and I'm just going to put it right on the plate. And again, you can do this with composition in mind. I cut these, normally I would tear them, but for the sake of demonstration, I just cut them mostly pretty randomly. Tried to have a few different sizes and going to apply them in different directions. This goes a lot easier if you take your gloves off, but oh well. You know how that goes. A little more thought to composition today, or with this particular technique, but not a whole lot more. All right, so the first layer, I'm going to take advantage of the video to show you some layering. So this will be going out to everyone as an addendum to the regular class, or an addition to the regular class. And getting my paint and adding my slow dry, and the yellow that I have this time is not quite as transparent as what I have been using normally. So I'm just going to apply this to the, and quickly, nope, I'm going to apply a little bit more paint. Oh, this is the transparent stuff. that's okay, it's the first layer. Now the reason I'm going to apply a bit more paint this time is because the next step is to get off the tape, because it doesn't work very well as a resist if you leave it on. Right, so I'm just using a knitting needle, a small knitting needle, to get off these. Pieces of tape. You can use an X-Acto knife or any kind of a little pokey tool, and all. Just as long as you can get up the tape without messing up much of the paint that's on there. You want to have that clean line. If that's your goal, which for a geometric kind of thing like this it would be. Okay. Now, I'm just going to give that just a little spritz. I think it's still wet, but just as a precaution. And I'm going to match it up with my marks here. And I'm giving this a good rub. And okay, so there is the first print. All right, now I am going to clean off my brayer. I'm just going to do it on the back of the print. No big deal. Now, what you can do is replace the tape, and I'm going to show you if I replace it where it was, then that will continue to stay white, and if I put it somewhere else, then that white will naturally become another color. But remember, when you're working with transparent paint, you have a paint that's going to, when you layer the colors, it's going to make the combination of the colors. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is I'm going to put 3 down where they were before, and then I'm going to put these down. After I clean off my plate. Yeah, I don't know how well these are going to stick. I kind of got the backs and the fronts mixed up when I was taking them off. Okay, now I am going to use my phthalo blue put some slow dry medium in there. Well, that strip got picked up, and where it went, no one knows. Oh, there it is. In case you were not sure that teachers are real people too. Okay. Now hopefully that's sticky side down. No, I don't think any of these were sticky side down except the very last one that I put down there. So, next application we will use new tape. Alright, we're going to get that off of there easily this time, because they're not stuck down very well to begin with, so well, you'll see a little bit of it, but we'll need new tape next time. All right. Just a little spritz. Okay, now we're going to line this up again. Use the brayer. Clean it off at the same time. Hopefully we'll get a good print here. Okay. So now you can see where you had the original tape placed in the same position. You have white, and in these other spots you have layers. So this is just the blue, what used to be white where you had it before, right here and right here. So can you see this, and this was where I originally had the tape. This is the new spot, so some of it is white where the tape originally was. This maintained the yellow in the resist, here, right? And then this stayed the white because it was the same layering. All right, we're going to clean off the plate. This is my large 1/4 inch glass plate that I got at the local glass shop. So you can see how well it works. All right, so I am just going to do some new tape. Take my gloves off because that makes my life easier. And I'm not worried about having the exact same sizes. If you want to do that, then you need to have all that prepped ahead of time, because once you get those mucked up with paint, it would be very, very difficult to try to cut similar shapes afterwards. And I'm just sorry for the lag time. I am just cutting and randomly placing the tape. Now, you can certainly do this as a very thoughtful kind of thing where you have a definite thing you want to, definite design that you want for your end result. As I've said before, this whole thing is about your intention, your imagination, and where you want to take these techniques. What do you want to do with them? All right, good enough. Now we're going to apply the last color, which is the red. I'm going to clean my space here. Otherwise, we're going to get a very lovely gray tone, but that's not what I really want right now. So, all right, applying the Quin Magenta. Maybe a little bit more paint this time. Now, the reason I don't do all this in class is, and I just tell you about it, is it's a time factor. So if we were doing an entire class of resist techniques, then you would get a lot more of this particular thing. Oh, it's the wrong outline we've got there. Went all the way down to my 12-inch one, which I didn't need to do. And normally there would be asking questions and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to think of what questions you might ask. Oh, one question that was asked in class, for those of you who were not there, was the transparent colors versus the opaque colors. So the transparent colors are generally man-made, and they have a chemical sounding name like quinacridone or phthalo. All right, I'm going to give this just a little spritz. And you can see right here that I smeared, maybe you can't, but right here I smeared a little bit with my hand. So hopefully that won't be too messed up. And I'm going to put it down on the space. Okay. All right. And now, this is what we have. So now you have the combination. There's a little bit of purple peeking out over here. There's a little bit of an orangey red where the quin magenta and the yellow overlaid, and here where I randomly put the strips maintained the green and the blue that were there prior. Right here you can see, where am I? Right here you can see the purple, I hope. I will bring this with me on Friday. So you have the idea of how you could actually do this deliberately with layers and layers of paint. And really think about how you wanted the layers to look when you were finished. For backgrounds, I kind of like the randomness of it. But if I were going to do this as a more finished piece, then I would be a little more deliberate about how things went on. But experimentation at this point is what you really need to think about. And now I have tape stuck to my gloves. Okay. All right, now I'm going to clean up this here. And the next thing we're going to do in the same vein is paper resist. So this happens just the opposite of the tape. So the tape you put down before the paint went down. The paper you put down after the first layer goes down. Unless you want to maintain white, and then the paper goes down first. But I will tell you that that's a challenge, not impossible. But it does make it a little bit more challenging because the paper does not stick to the plate. So we're not going to worry about leaving any white. I am going to put down my initial layer And since I'm layering with transparents, I go from the lightest color to the darkest color. So in this case, what I'm going to do is the lemon yellow, the quin magenta, and then the phthalo blue. So this is going down on the plate. Quickly. And I'm going to take a new sheet of paper so you can see it. Put it down. And just use the brayer on the back. Clean off the brayer at the same time. Okay, so now we have our first layer. All right. Now, if you wanted to have white, what you could do, what I could have done, put the paint down, then lay the paper on top and take your print. And wherever the paper is, we'll print white. All right, now I am just going to use regular copy paper for this part. All right, cleaning off the plate. And the next color is quin magenta.